So the new season of Pokemon Unite just dropped, and with it came a huge balance patch. We're going to read through the notes and see how this can affect the game, but let's get into it. So they're starting off with what has the potential to be the biggest change that the game has seen so far. Uh, they have nerfed two of the most popular held items in the game, Buddy Barrier and Score Shield. Um, they've come to be played on pretty much every character because they're so strong and um, they allow you to score and in team fights get massive shields. So I've been looking forward to this, and I think everybody has expected this to come at some point. So when you look at Buddy Barrier, they've decreased just the passive HP that you get as the basic stat, and then the big one is the shield that you get for a teammate has dropped massively from 40% down to 25% on level 20. And this is also a big note that multiple buddy barriers no longer stack on top of each other. I think that's been a big issue is where, you have your entire team of 5 running buddy barriers and then they end up stacking on each other and you have these huge shields that make it impossible to team fight. So I like these changes a lot. And then if you look at score shield, another commonly used item, cooldown going from 6 to 20 seconds. Okay, that's good. But here's the big changes. Shield is now consumed before any other shields, so you no longer can buddy barrier, or if, say, Crustle gets his huge shield with his ult, those don't stack with score shield, so you only have to break the score shield, you don't have to break these massive scores, so that's a big nerf to score comp mons like Crustle, Greedent, where it's going to be a lot easier to break score shields. You're going to actually have to use teamwork, you're going to have to wipe the other team to be able to score, rather than just using your shield and buddy barrier. And the shield amount increases with level, so as the game goes on, you'll get bigger shields from score shield. So both of these changes are absolutely massive, potentially just changing builds on every Pokemon in the game and just how the game is played in general. Um, it's going to be harder to score. I think fighting and team fights, cooperation is going to be a lot more important. So let's get into the Pokemon that were nerfed and buffed. Greedent, CC is no longer flat out removed, it's just converted to a slow. So Covet is no longer an unstoppable. You can CC them, you can slow them a little bit. Um, I think this is a good change. Covet is kind of an insane ability where he's completely unstoppable and he just gets so much speed out and healing. So I think this will help make Greedent not as annoying to play against for sure, but it'll be interesting to see. Blissey, um, soft boiled egg bomb are probably not used nearly as much as helping hand and safeguard, so they're kind of changing how they work. Now each move grants 2 egg charges, and they share a reserve, so you can get up to 4 charges to use between the 2 moves. Um, Kind of interesting that now you're kind of forcing you to play the full egg build, or else you're kind of missing out on charges. Um, it could definitely help out that you can use them more rapidly if you build up charges rather than waiting on cooldown. Could make the move set more viable. And then they're swapping when you get the pluses on the soft boiled and the safeguard and the egg bomb helping hand. Um, Not sure how much that impacts it, but interesting change. Duraludon getting nerfed again. Um, they are nerfing his Dragon Pulse damage. Estimated nerf is around 30%. So again, that is a huge number. Duraludon is still one of the best secures in the game, so that could definitely impact him and his use in the game because they nerfed his damage already and nerfing it again. He might not be the best secure in the game anymore. Stealth Rock, just a visual adjustment. Okay, Ninetales getting touched again. They are reducing the healing that you get from the Aurora Veil, the ratio, and the base healing, and the speed buff is reduced. So a big hit to Aurora Veil. And then on Blizzard, the stun duration decreased while the width is increased. So overall, I would say that's probably a big nerf to Blizzard as well. The stun that you get is such a huge part of Blizzard, um, that I feel like even the width getting increased doesn't outweigh the stun getting decreased. So Ninetales kind of getting hit on both builds. Interesting. I think Ninetales is really strong, so I get why they did it, but we'll have to see how those play out. Okay, on to Talonflame. All right, this is much needed. Talonflame has been very strong for a while now. Brave Bird, the radius decreases on the AoE, but the center to center range remains the same. So the landing circle is smaller, but you still have the same range. You can reach just as far, just a smaller hit box on the back end of it, which I think is good because it's almost impossible to avoid a well aimed Brave Bird. If they aim it at you in the middle, you're not going to be able to walk out of it in time. So I think that's a good change. And it's got a slightly less base damage and per level damage, so that's good. I think Brave Bird did hit a little bit too hard. They're not touching it a ton, so I think that's a good idea. It needed a little bit of a nerf. Um, Flame Sweep, uh, this is his ult, this is the biggest change necessary is the cooldown. So it's going from 89 to 100 seconds. 11 seconds isn't huge, but maybe it costs Talonflame from getting it one extra time in the match. He just gets it way too much in a game, so I think that's the biggest change needed. And they also decreased the damage on it slightly, which I get. It does a decent amount of damage, but you're using it more for the stat boost, the shields. So I think this was a good change. Now we get to Lucario, and it looks like E-Speed is finally being touched. They've nerfed close combat a few times, and they're finally hitting E-Speed. Um, Slight touching on the ratio your attack damage, and a very slight base damage decrease. These don't look like huge changes, to be honest. Very slight nerfs. I still expect this build to be very strong. Uh, I'll definitely have to try it out, but this doesn't look like it's going to be enough to make E-Speed a bad build. I still think it's going to be really good. Lucario is just such a strong character as it is, so uh, I think it's necessary, but we'll see if it makes much of a difference. All right, now on to Hoopa, another character that I think everyone could agree needed touched, was still very strong even after getting nerfed last patch. So Trick, shield range reduced, auto attack range reduced, and the cooldown increased. And then on Trick plus the healing is getting nerfed. Again, Trick was such a strong move, along with Shadow Ball. So I think these are good changes. Shadow Ball stun duration reduced. This is really nice. That I don't know why the stun on Shadow Ball was so long, and for how short of a cooldown Shadow Ball has, it feels like you get stunned all the time and you can't move against Hoopa. So that's a great change to me. And then they buff Phantom Force. The slow duration increased and the cooldowns decreased. Again, I don't know if it's going to be enough to make it better than Shadow Ball. Um, it might be worth a shot, but these are necessary changes, but they still didn't touch his ult. I feel like the ult is still too strong, does too much damage, too much CC. Um, but these are good changes. Zera Aura, they increased the shield on discharge slightly, a little bit more on the base, a little bit more on the percentage. Um, Looks very slight. I don't know if it's going to be too much of a impact on the discharge build. I feel like Wild Charge will still be better. All right, here's a good one. Aegislash. I feel like Aegislash has been pretty solid recently. I think it's maybe a step below Lucario and Machamp, but maybe these buffs can bring it back up to that level. So its boosted attack in the sword form gets a buff, a bit more ratio damage, and 1% more of the max HP on these boosted attacks. That's pretty big. 1% more max HP. That's significant. And then on the shield form, they're buffing the healing that you get on the boosted autos. So both of these are nice buffs. And then Sacred Sword, they're increasing the damage as well as the stun duration. Um, so I like this a lot. Sacred Sword is the move that I like to play. So I'm really interested to see how this affects the combination of the increased damage on Sacred Sword, the stun, and then you getting more damage on your boosted autos could be could make Aegislash really fun to play. All right, and now Trevenant, who I think could be the big winner of this patch, to be honest. Um, Branch Poke, slow increase, and they're increasing his damage on it, which I think is very important. His early game is kind of weak until he evolves and gets his level 5 ability, so buffing Branch Poke here makes him a little bit better early, which is necessary. Um, and it gets healing 3% of his max health, which again, if you played Trevenant, you know the whole gimmick is you're hurting yourself with your moves. So to get more healing definitely helps. Curse again, increased damage, base ratio, and the final hit getting more damage. Um, and at the same time, the damage you're dealing to yourself is decreasing by 1% per second. So that's a big difference. You're dealing more damage, dealing less damage to yourself. That could be a big change. Curse feels like it could be very strong, especially for a level 5 ability. Um, but they're also buffing Pain Split, which is the other ability. You heal 100% of damage dealt to 120% dealt. Um, I don't play Pain Split too much. It might be worth a try getting extra healing back. Again, if you're playing Curse with Pain Split, you're dealing damage to yourself, but then you're also healing by dealing damage, so could offset, but you're missing out on all the CC of Horn Leech, so worth a shot, but I don't think it'll overcome Horn Leech. And then this is massive. 20-second cooldown on his ult, which I think is a pretty solid ult. It's a big area knock up. You deal additional damage to any targets you hit. This could definitely lead to him getting his ult potentially one more time a game, which is massive. Um, all of this, I think, was necessary. Trevenant was kind of not worth picking up, so he's definitely going to be worth a shot. I think he could be the big winner of this patch. This looks like a big buff. Cramorant, another character that doesn't get played very much, so I think was necessary to get a buff. Air Slash, you get an additional 5th blade, more damage overall. And then his ult, slight buff on the cooldown, more damage, base, percentage. So Cramorant's seen a pretty solid buff. Like, I think that's one of the criticisms on Cramorant. His ult was really strong early. They nerfed it, and it's been kind of weak since. So they're buffing his ult again, and that could potentially make Cram very strong again. He's got such a good ult, just huge area and potentially good damage again. Greninja, okay. This is uh this is potentially scary for me. This is a huge 30-second reduction in his cooldown. Um, Greninja had the longest cooldown in the game for his ult before. Um, so maybe it was a bit too long, but I felt like Greninja offset the long cooldown on his ult. He was still really strong, so I'm kind of worried about how strong this could potentially make Greninja getting his ult, an extra time a game potentially. Okay. And last we got Azumarill, bug fix on Bubble, bug fix on Whirlpool, um, Aqua Tail. This is a pretty big change. Um, Aqua Tail no longer ignores defenses and shields. Um, I think this is kind of a massive buff or nerf because early game being able to ignore defenses, you could deal a lot of damage. And maybe with the nerf to Buddy Berry and stuff, it's not as big to have to worry about going through shields. But that was a big advantage of having Aqua Tail. But to kind of make up for it, you can see they increase the damage on both the short and the long range. Um, so it could potentially even out, but I still feel like overall that's going to be a nerf to Aqua Tail, which is I didn't think it was that strong of a move. I didn't think Azumarill was very strong as it was, so worth a shot, but I don't think it's going to affect him too much. Um, but that is all of it. A lot of great changes. I think they touched Pokemon like Cramorant and Trevenant that weren't used very much. Aegislash same. And then they nerfed the Mons that were really strong. Hoopa, Lucario, Talonflame all probably needed nerfs. So again, the biggest change though being these held item changes. I really think they have the potential to change the way the game is played, change builds on every Pokemon. these items were pretty much auto picks on a lot of characters, so I definitely think that that's a good change, and I'm glad they finally made it. Um, anyway, that's gonna be it for this video. Like and subscribe if you are new to the channel. Otherwise, have a good one. I'll see you next time.